It's Wednesday, so that means the week is half over. So I'm curious, does that mean the week is half empty or half full? I don't know. But one thing I can tell you is the Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy gang, welcome back. I am Jeff McAleer, your host as usual here on the Daily Dope, presented by thegaminggang.com. And welcome aboard. I know there's a few of you who've been watching every single day, which is super cool. Really do appreciate that. We may have some new folks popping in to check out the unboxing I've got today for Wild Blue Yonder from my good friends over at GMT Games. So if this is the first time you've joined us, just real quickly, the format is I do some news pieces, share some information. I might kind of go off topic a bit. I shouldn't say I might, I will. So if you're someone who prefers videos that's just game, 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 this is not going to be the stream for you. It's not the show for you. It's very conversational. I like to keep things light, and I don't want to be just speaking at you. I kind of like to have a little bit of a dialogue going on. So there is a chat. You will see that there's the wrong side, haha, chat windows over there. And I don't necessarily expect people to jump into chat. This seems to be a show that people like to kind of kick back and watch and listen to, and so on and so forth. But anyway, I've got a big show for you today, and it is Wargame Wednesday. And I do want to point out that wargaming is kind of a niche in our tabletop gaming hobby here. And I don't want people to think that Wargame Wednesday is just all going to be stuff about war games. It's not. We're going to feature, or I should say, I am going to feature a war game here in the Duct Tape Studios on Wednesdays. But I'm going to try to keep them to be games that are going to have more vast appeal than say something that is just real traditional sort of SPI / old school Avalon Hill Hex Encounters games. So there's that. Anyway, I do have some info about what's coming up on tomorrow's show, because on Thursdays I'm going to look to try to focus more on role-playing games. Trying to kind of put together a little format here. If you've just tuned in today, this is really a week that the Daily Dope has been running, and actually the first few streams were just tests. But I am going to review Xanathar's Guide to Everything, trying to keep the glare off of these books here. So I've got that coming tomorrow, as well as Starfinder, baby. That's right, I'm going to do a review for Starfinder. I know it's been out for a bit. This is a pretty big tome. But I will be reviewing both of those on tomorrow's show. And I do want to point out, they're going to be short reviews. They're not going to run more than 15-20 minutes for each. I don't want to sit there and just do a review of a role-playing game product that maybe some people aren't really all that interested in. I don't want to devote the entire show to it. So I'm going to kind of hit bullet points on what's cool about them, who it's going to appeal to as a buyer, so on and so forth. So anyway, so I've got loads and loads of news today. And the first one is pretty cool. The news came out yesterday, actually, but it actually popped right before I was going to start yesterday's Daily Dope. So I wasn't able to squeeze it in. But my good friends over at Victory Point Games have a Kickstarter going for the latest edition of Nemo's War. And it launched yesterday. It's a new print run, but it also includes an expansion. Now, not only did the project launch on Tuesday, but it secured its funding of $30,000 in the first 4 hours. As of right now, the project has already cracked the $60,000 threshold. Here is the dope from Victory Point Games. Set in the year 1870 of Jules Verne's classic novel 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, you assume the role and motive of Captain Nemo and set sail in his amazing electric-powered submarine, the Nautilus. Nemo's War is a single-player board game of underwater exploration and combat. You will search the oceans, combat vessels of all nations, braze the hazards of the sea, find mysterious treasures, behold and chronicle amazing wonders, and travel around the world in your quest for knowledge and vengeance. Oh yeah. The second edition of Victory Point Games' popular solitaire game from designer Chris Taylor is a greatly enhanced offering featuring mass production printing and amazing Ian O'Toole art and graphics throughout. Decision-rich, narrative-enhanced solitaire gameplay is one of the big focuses of the game. There are 4 Nemo motive objectives, 3 levels of difficulty, plus other gameplay options for you to channel your inner Nemo in an immersive strategy role-playing experience. There's also great references and quotations from 20,000 Leagues Under the Seas by Jules Verne throughout the game. Now wait a second, wait. You say you already own the second edition of Nemo's War? Well, I'm jealous, but I also have to point out BPG has something just right for you too. An expansion pack. That's right. And when I say expansion pack, I say pack. And I really mean a pack because it's almost like a booster pack that's being added to Nemo's War. Back to Victory Point Games as far as the expansion. This new expansion contains 12 new Nautilus upgrade cards that add more game variety for the players. They include the Clockwork Cipher, the Adventurers League, Nemo's Manifesto, Prize Crew Quarters, and more. I do want to mention that the Nemo's War Kickstarter is going to be a short one. It's only going to run through December 21st. So if you don't already have Nemo's War 2nd edition, you can grab the core game and its expansion together at the $59 pledge level. If you already have the game, be sure to snag the expansion for $5. And there is a video from Victory Point Games featuring Alan Emmerich and Chris Taylor. And I do want to point out the video is a little bit longer than most previews tend to be. Clocks in just over 4 minutes, but take it away, Alan Emmerich and Chris Taylor.
Nemo's War 2nd Edition is the great solo game of adventure, danger, and riches from Jules Verne's renowned work, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Take the helm as Captain Nemo and plot the Nautilus's course on a high seas voyage, and travel the oceans on missions of discovery and war. As Captain Nemo, you will make the hard decisions for your ship and its crew as you encounter tests of daring, incite rebellion in foreign lands, and destroy commerce and warships alike. The rich narrative of your adventure unfolds as you play the game, immersing you in the world from Jules Verne. To commence your journey, you must choose your motivation and fulfill your destiny. Set a course for war, science, exploration, or anti-imperialism. After reaching one of several finale cards, your victory points are totaled, and the epilogue to your story is told. Whether you're stoking the flames of war or collecting sunken treasures, you'll face your greatest challenges as you draw to begin each turn. Will you be able to fend off Ned Land's tantrums? Are you able to find the lost city of Atlantis? Can you escape the many clutches of the dreaded giant squid? Your success can earn you great rewards, but if you push your luck too hard with your ship, crew, or sanity, it will mean the end of your journey. If your crew dies, your hull is compromised, or, worse, you are broken from the stress of your exploits. Your mission ends in failure. Your mission also ends if your adventures gain too much notoriety, as you become an international pariah and hunted down mercilessly. As the captain, you have many ways to prepare yourself and the Nautilus for the dangers at sea. Destroyed commerce ships and war vessels, while great for scoring more victory points, can be sacrificed for precious salvage that can be retrofitted to upgrade the Nautilus. Will you equip steam torpedoes to help scourge the seas? Or will you adopt more monstrous features to the hull to reduce suspicion about your submarine? Your choices will change with each adventure, and it's up to you to decide your fate. So prepare yourself for the adventure of a lifetime and command your vessel in Nemo's War, 2nd edition.
Hi, I'm Chris Taylor, the designer of Nemo's War.
And I'm Alan Emmerich, the developer and publisher of both editions of Nemo's War. And we wanted to take a moment to thank you for visiting this Kickstarter and to give us an opportunity to explain why this game is really special to us personally. Chris?
Nemo's War is one of my first designs that really was a hit, and it tells a wonderful story. It's a great adventure game, and the 2nd edition is just looking absolutely amazing, and I'm very proud of what they've done here with it.
Yeah, Ian has outdone himself with the art. And this game is important to me personally because when I was developing the 1st edition of Nemo's War, I actually did it in a hospital room with my father dying of cancer. And I grabbed one of those rolly tables that they slide under the patients and spread out Nemo's War on it. And every time Dad was asleep, I would sit there and develop the game feverishly. It was a great diversion from what was going on. And it gave me lots of time to think about Dad, who was in the Navy, and telling me all his stories and relating his life to Captain Nemo's. So that's why this game is important to me. So thanks again for visiting, and goodbye from Southern California and the little game company that could, Victory Point Games.
And thank you for supporting our Kickstarter and checking it out here today. Appreciate it.
And there you have it. So that is the Kickstarter for Victory Point Games Nemo's War. And like I said before, it looks like a really, really cool edition. I'll be very honest, and I'm going to kind of tell a little story like I normally do. And funny thing is that Victory Point Games and the Gaming Gang sort of grew up together. Victory Point Games was one of the first companies to ever actually send out review copies to myself and Elliot Miller when Elliot Miller was part of the Gaming Gang. And it's pretty interesting because their games came in these Ziploc bags, and the component quality was pretty much desktop publishing. So quite a few people were sitting there, and they were, I should say, reviewers, right? Gamers like the games because the whole thing was the game plays the thing is kind of their tagline, right? So there were reviewers out there who wouldn't touch Victory Point Games because, the components just weren't up to snuff. Of course, myself and Elliot thought, hey, a good game is a good game. We're not going to knock a game for components not being like Fantasy Flight Games components were back, say, in 2010 when they really stood out from a lot of other companies. But anyway, I am so happy to see that Victory Point Games has an awesome new edition. It's sold out. That's why they went back to Kickstarter. It pretty much is gone. You can't find it anywhere. You got to go to the secondary market if you want to try to get a copy. And yeah, pay top dollar. So as I mentioned, that Kickstarter does run through December 21st. And jump on board if you don't have Nemo's War. I reviewed the 1st edition, and it came out before the Gaming Gang launched, but I did play it afterwards, and it would have been in the running for Game of the Year if we had been around at that point. I gave it, I want to say, a 9.3 out of 10. That's how much I enjoyed the original Solitaire, Nemo's War is Solitaire, but the original version of Nemo's War. So definitely check it out. Now, I did notice there is something going on that I'm going to nip in the bud right this minute. It's with the feed, and I'm going to take just a couple of moments. It should only take me 2 minutes to fix this. One of these days, I'm going to actually get through a stream without any sorts of glitches. I don't know when that's going to be, but I'm going to fix it right now. So I will be right back. I'm going to just pop over to, just going to put up the stay tuned screen real quick. Okay, I'm back. See, that wasn't so bad. It was only a couple of minutes, maybe 2-3 minutes tops. Wasn't like the other day when Windows did the update and completely screwed up all my audio settings. So, you know, half hour before I was getting ready to sit down and do the show, do a little test, and nothing. That was great. Anywho, all right, so. I'll be more than honest what happened. So of course I'm using a teleprompter because there's absolutely no way that I can memorize the news. I hate teleprompters anyway. There's no way that I can sit there and memorize all these news pieces, especially the press release stuff coming from companies. And somehow there was a character in the scripting and it was messing up the teleprompter. It cut right off after that news piece. And I was like, what, huh? What's going on? So much for that. Anyway, so this next news piece I've got was another mess up yesterday, right? So I'm sitting there and I'm doing this news piece and I was doing kind of a funny voice for it too. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm having fun with this. And then it turned out that there was no audio for that news piece. Isn't that great? Yes. A lot of people don't like to, people streaming in that, they don't want to tell you how the sausage is made. Hey, I'm telling you how the sausage is made. It's not that big a deal. But it was kind of funny because I had to build these little scenes with the news pieces, and I kind of forgot to put the mic in. So anyway, so I wanted to actually redo this news piece because it's actually something pretty cool. It's a Kickstarter that's coming from Calliope Games. It's on the horizon, and it's funny because originally I thought the game was coming out in the spring. It wasn't doing a Kickstarter first, but I guess it is doing a Kickstarter for Calliope, so I did want to mention that. So I guess it's a good thing there wasn't sound because I would have been completely wrong. That's what happens when I get my news from secondary sources and it doesn't come straight from the company. But the game in question is the Mansky Caper. Yes. It is on the horizon and it's going to launch in January. So get ready to scoot with the loot in the Mansky Caper. And here's the dope from Calliope. It's 1925. You and your family of associates have been trying to get respect for years, but the richest mobster in the country, Al Mansky, has been cramping your style. Al's a bit eccentric. He doesn't trust the cops or banks, so all of his loot is in his mansion, guarded by a diabolical security system of explosive traps. The good news is, He's out of town. He's probably off with some dame someplace. I don't know, but Al's gone. It'd be a shame if something happened to all that loot. But a family working together that bested Al would make quite a name for itself. Of course, the most fame and, dare I say, leadership of the family goes to the person who walks away from the job with the most loot. Your colleagues may not agree with you, but you all owe each other favors. Calling in the right favor at the right time is what leadership is all about in this business. The key is to work together to help yourself and don't get blown up. In the Mansky caper, players team up to ransack rooms at Al Mansky's mansion, opening safes to find the valuables inside. Split loot with others in the room. Watch out for twists of fortune and dangerous traps that can ruin your plans with a bang. And I mean a bang. The winner is the player who's accumulated the most loot in their private stash in the getaway car by the time Al's mansion is completely ransacked. The game is intended for 2 to 6 players ages 8 and up and plays in under an hour. I don't have an official launch date for the Kickstarter yet, or the pledge level you'll need to score a copy of the game, but I'll give you the skinny as soon as the Don gives me a call and lets me know. Our next news item today is one that looks... I've got a couple of games today that look really interesting, really kind of unusual. And the next one is from Stonemaier Games, and it's coming out, I want to say, I believe it's next week. I think it's next week it arrives. And it is Charterstone. And as I mentioned, this really does look different. And as I said, I think you can order it now. It might be in stores right now, but it's hitting very, very soon if it's not in your friendly local gaming store. Here is the dope from Stonemaier Games. The prosperous kingdom of Green Gully, ruled for centuries by the Forever King. Well, if he ruled for centuries, I guess he would be kind of a forever king. Anyway, the kingdom has issued a decree to its citizens to colonize the vast lands beyond its borders. In an effort to start a new village, the Forever King has selected 6 citizens for the task, each of whom has a unique set of skills they use to build their charter. In Charterstone, a competitive legacy game scaled for 1 to 6 players, you construct buildings and inhabit a shared village. Building stickers are removed from cards and permanently added to your character on the board, becoming action spaces for any player to use. Kind of like Lords of Waterdeep, Kalis, and Ora et Labora. I have never seen Ora et Labora. Thus, a few available buildings soon grow into a bustling village with dozens of actions. Charterstone features the following: streamlined starting rulebook. Learn as you play and add rules as you unlock content. Engine building elements with each game and over the course of the campaign. A branching storyline where short-term decisions have long-term impact. A secret component found in only one other board game. I don't know, hopefully it's not like plutonium. It can't be lead, because I'm sure there's plenty of Chinese board games out there that have lots of lead in them. Dope! Also includes 75 crates to unlock, 36 metal coins, 350 unique cards, and 230 plus wooden tokens. Exactly 12 of each resource: wood, coal, grain, brick, iron, and delicious pumpkin. Pumpkin pie. Your journey through Charterstone's many secrets will last 12 games, but it doesn't end there. Your completed village will be a one-of-a-kind variable worker placement game. Or you can purchase a completely optional recharge pack to play a second campaign. Charterstone will be released on December 12th in most parts of the world. This is where it gets a little tricky if it's going to be in stores where you live, right? So you might be watching this live over in Europe, or you could be sitting in Cleveland watching this. Here's how it works. It came out November 17th in Asia and New Zealand. Came out November 30th in Australia. It comes out today in Europe. And it's supposed to hit the US on December 12th. So, got a lot of options of how you'd pick it up. Charterstone is for ages 10 and up, plays in about 60 minutes, and it is carrying an MSRP of $70. I have to point out that the images that I've been able to find aren't, you know, I don't go and steal other people's images that they take pictures of games. So I have to try to get stuff that's going to fit, because a lot of times some companies just don't produce big images that look good. So I have to take what I can find. And so these images probably aren't doing Charterstone justice. So why don't we hear from Jamie over at Stonemaier, and he'll give us a little teaser.
Hi, this is Jamie Stonemaier, the publisher and designer of Charterstone, a village building legacy game. You're about to watch a spoiler-free teaser trailer for the game, which is due out later in 2017. Enjoy!
The King of Green Gully has selected 6 citizens to start a new village and compete with each other for glory. You arrive at a fresh patch of land on the outskirts of the kingdom in this legacy game for 1 to 6 players. You have only a slim book as your guide, as you will be introduced to new rules when they become relevant. Each villager is given a charter where they can construct permanent buildings. These buildings become action spaces for any player to use with their workers. Using the Charterstone will unlock a crate on one of your constructed building cards, adding permanent content to the game. The core campaign will last 12 games, during which players will make decisions that impact their charters and the fate of the village. When the campaign is over, the village will be a one-of-a-kind, replayable worker placement game. Discover the secrets of Charterstone, including 350 unique cards, 230 wooden tokens, 36 metal coins, and more, in October 2017.
As you can see, that was a teaser because it was showing October 2017. So it was a little behind schedule as far as being released. But there is one thing I do want to mention from that video. I'm just going to say it right to Jamie if he sees this. Jamie, you better not be producing a game that's PG for $70. PG just isn't going to cut it. Pretty good isn't going to cut it. That better be an X-rated game. X for excellent. Just kidding. Anyway, moving right along. My next news piece is from APE Games. And here, this is another one that looks pretty unique. And it's coming soon. And when I say it's unique because in this game, you're a cloud. Yes, you play a cloud. Here's the dope from APE Games. Welcome to the lush world of Petrichor. I think that might be how it's pronounced. I am not positive. Anyway, in Petrichor, you're a cloud. Your entire purpose in life is to expand, sire other clouds, and water crops. Unfortunately, your mates, who are also clouds, have a similar plan. It's up to you to manipulate the weather and assimilate these rogue clouds to contribute to the growth of as many crops as possible, all in order to claim the title of MVC, Most Valuable Cloud. Petrichor is a highly interactive board game playable by 1 to 4 people, or up to 5 with the expansion I'll mention in a moment. It's an action selection area influence game with 4 simple actions which interact with the various fields in ever surprising ways. The players move clouds with water droplets and then rain those clouds onto specific fields to make sure they have the right amount of water for the harvest. During harvest, crops that have been watered enough are scored. I guess those that aren't watered enough just dry up and die. Players are able to influence when and how often the harvest happens. Players need to strike a fine balance between maintaining control of the different fields as well as influencing harvest to make sure the two come together at the optimal time. Playtesters have said it's like dominant species in a fifth of the time. The game's tightly interlocked and thematic mechanisms provide excitement, lots of interaction, and field-watering fun. APE Games is co-publishing Petrichor in cooperation with Mighty Boards of... Well, they just say Mighty Boards, but isn't it something like Mighty Boards of like Borneo or something like that? Okay, I'll just say Mighty Boards. As mentioned, the game is for 1 to 4 players, ages 14 and up, and it will play in about 20 minutes per player. So I guess you can knock out a solitaire game in less than a half hour. As I pointed out, there's also an expansion, or I kind of did point it out, which is coming out, I believe, at the same time, and it's Petrichor Flowers, which adds new elements to the game, including 3 new field types, the titular flowers, and enough components to play the game with 5 players. That expansion carries an MSRP of $20. And as I mentioned, I believe that is hitting stores at the same time as the core game. Also, now available from our friends at GMT Games is a new edition of Here I Stand, which was arriving just in time. Well, it didn't arrive just in time, but it was taking advantage of the 500th anniversary of Martin Luther's posting of his 95 Theses. The card-driven game tackles the wars of the Reformation over a period of nearly 30 years. Here's the dope from GMT. Here I Stand, Wars of the Reformation 1517 to 1555 is the first game in over 25 years to cover the political and religious conflicts of early 16th century Europe. Few realize that the greatest feats of Martin Luther, Jean Calvin, Ignatius Loyola, Henry VIII, Charles V, Francis I, Suleiman the Magnificent, Ferdinand Magellan, Hernando Cortez, and Nicholas Copernicus all fall within this narrow 40-year period of history. The game covers all the action of the period using a unique card-driven game system that models both the political and religious conflicts of the period in a single point-to-point map. Here I Stand is the first card-driven game to prominently feature secret deal-making. A true 6-sided diplomatic struggle, the game places a heavy emphasis on successful alliance building through negotiations that occur away from the table during the pre-turn diplomacy phase. Oh yes, those of us who have played Diplomacy, the old Avalon Hill title, know all about diplomacy phases and backstabbing. Set during the period in which Niccolo Machiavelli published his masterpiece, The Prince, backstabbing is always possible, especially because the card deck is loaded with event and response cards that can be played by any power to disrupt the plans of the powers in the lead. Here I Stand is an innovative game system, being the first to integrate religion, politics, economics, and diplomacy in a card-driven design. Games vary in length from 3 to 4 hours for a tournament scenario, up to full campaign games that run about twice that time. Keep in mind, with 6 players and then you have a diplomacy phase, the game is going to take some time to play. Rules to play games with 3, 4, or 5 players are also included. The 3-player game is just as well balanced as the standard 6-player configuration, taking advantage of the natural alliances of the period. Here I Stand is for 3 to 6 players, as I mentioned before. Hey, more the merrier. Ages 14 and up, and carries an MSRP of $59.95. So I do want to point out that if you were watching yesterday, you saw that I got Here I Stand. Here, let me switch over here real quick. Gotta go out of order here. So I got Here I Stand, the new edition, yesterday. And of course, I'll be doing an unboxing of that. So kind of, you know, take a peek. We did see the map in that little slideshow and that. So this is a big box. This is also a heavy box. This is not a light box. This is a good sized box. $60 for Here I Stand is a steal. It really is. It is an absolute steal. And I am keeping my fingers crossed that I did see the pricing correct on the GMT Games website. Because I'm saying, oh my gosh, $60 is a great deal. And then all of a sudden it's like, well, Jeff, it's $89. Stupid. But I could have swore, I believe it was $59.95. And I did take a peek because I mentioned yesterday that I wasn't sure if I did an unboxing video for Here I Stand. And I had not. You know, after doing this stuff for 8 years, you sometimes forget exactly right off the top of your head if you've done videos for different things. So I am going to do an unboxing of this. So that will be pretty cool. So we've got that. That'll probably be, that's next week is what I'm thinking. Anyway, so my final news piece is from Monte Cook Games. And Monte Cook Games has a very hot selling RPG setting, which just recently arrived on the scene, at least in PDF, and it is Unmasked. It's part of the Cypher system, and Unmasked promises superpowers and horror during the dark 80s. I seem to think there's quite a few companies that are sort of jumping on that whole Stranger Things bandwagon, aren't they? One good thing is Monte Cook Games makes excellent role-playing games, so this setting has that going for it. Here's the dope from Monte Cook Games. Top Gun is in theaters. Papa Don't Preach is on the radio. Halley's Comet is in the sky, and Iran-Contra is in the news. The Soviets are in Afghanistan, and the doomsday clock is at 3 minutes until midnight. But there's something else going on, something even bigger. At school, at the mall, down by the 7-Eleven, you started noticing things. Is that troll doll really glowing? Is that cassette tape calling to you? Why doesn't anyone else seem to notice? And when you follow that strange compulsion to create a mask from these items, seriously, you're going to make a mask out of a cassette tape? You become someone else. Someone with capabilities the world has never seen and goals that may not be your own. The mask gives you unimaginable power, but can you resist its agenda? And there are others starting to show up too. Oh yes, others who may have embraced their mask's dark sides. Maybe that doomsday clock matters after all. This book includes a complete, ready-to-play campaign setting of superpowers and psychological horror for the Cypher system. 4 new types and a load of new foci. It is foci, wouldn't it? Plural of focus? It's not focuses. I guess it's foci. And a new approach to superpowers. In your mask form, you might be a let's try that again. You might be a metalhead smasher who lives on the dark side, or a show changer who flies by night. But on school days, you're a regular teen dealing with bullies, grades, and new wave fashion. Bust out those members-only jackets, folks. The complete, ready-to-use town of Boundary Bay, New York, as well as detailed information and guidance on creating your own small-town setting or using your own town circa 1986. Right after I graduated high school. Yeah, I'm old. Sorry. New creatures, NPCs, and threats are included. A complete adventure set in Ocean View High School, plus a plethora of tools and advice for building your own adventures and campaigns based around the mystery of the masks are included. Once again, as I mentioned, Unmasked is a complete campaign setting for the Cypher system, so that means you need the Cypher system rulebook to play Unmasked. And I did review the Cypher system core book not long after it came out, and it's pretty cool. I like stuff from Monte Cook Games. I don't really talk too much about companies I don't like. What would be the point of that? I mean, that's kind of stupid. Anyway, Unmasked clocks in at 192 pages, and it's currently available from my pals at Drive-Thru RPG for $17.99. I'm not sure if the hardcover's out yet. It might be. It might be in stores. And I know that does carry an MSRP of $44.95, I believe I saw. I'm pretty sure. So, that is the news for today. Still getting used to that teleprompter thing. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. It's a teleprompter. It is what it is. You know, like I said, I can't sit there and completely memorize all this stuff. But there is actually one last news piece. I don't know if I want to say it's a news piece or it's something that's kind of in the wind as far as tabletop gaming. Let me grab a sip here real quick. So it's my understanding that Mayfair Games, which is located, their headquarters is in Skokie, Illinois. So it's here in the Chicagoland area. The word is that Mayfair Games has let their entire marketing department go. That they were all let go. That there are massive layoffs going on with Mayfair Games. So that probably means one thing. Somebody's buying Mayfair Games. That is my guess. Especially if you were going to be unloading, letting go all of your marketing people. Because if another company's purchasing Mayfair, then that would mean you don't need their marketing department anymore. You're going to have your own. So I think mainly that's what this means, is Mayfair is going to be acquired by another company after the first of the year, is what I would think. The announcement may come out before that, but I'm taking a wild stab. It's going to be after the first of the year. And I'm going to tell you right now, and you can mark the date. Today is December 6th that I'm saying this. If I'm wrong, I'll be the first one to say, yeah, I was wrong. I didn't read the tea leaves right. Either Mayfair's going under, which I don't think. I do not think that that is the case. I don't think Mayfair's going under. I think Asmodee's buying him. There you go. I think Asmodee is going to scoop them up. And I know it's going to upset a lot of people out there because they feel that Asmodee is really just starting to monopolize the industry. Yeah. What can you do? What are you going to do? So, if you had a company out there and you were making a decent buck and somebody came along and said, hey, I'm going to give you a lot of money to buy your company and release you from all these headaches and stuff like that, you might jump at that chance. Or you might sit there and say, well, I'll take that if you keep me on board as, some sort of C-level executive. So anyway, I just wanted to float that out there. I don't know what anybody else thinks about what's going on. I don't know if people were even aware of it. But one of the reasons I actually found that out is I did an interview with Mayfair at Origins, and once Elliot left the gaming gang, he really took care of the Mayfair stuff, and I never really kind of picked up the ball and ran with it with Mayfair because I always had enough stuff on my plate going on, and that's why a lot of companies don't get covered on the gaming gang. It's not necessarily that I don't like those companies, it's just I've never really established a relationship with them, and some of them are very tough to kind of get on board with you or whatever. But I thought it was very unusual because I had a great interview, and I thought, okay, for sure they're going to start sending me their press releases about games that are coming out. Nope, nothing. Heard crickets. So just the other day I was thinking, hey, I should try to see if the same contact is at Mayfair. And then I was like, whoa, wait a second, what? Anyway, so I know a lot of people are, not a lot, there's hundreds of people watching right now. I know people are going to be interested in this edition of the Daily Dope because I am doing a live unboxing of one of GMT's newest releases. It's a reprint I do want to point out it is a reprint, but it hasn't been in print for quite some time, and it is Wild Blue Yonder. Yes, part of Down in Flames series. If you were watching yesterday, I shared a little story about being at Consim World Expo out in Tempe, Arizona a few years back, and I misspoke. I said that Down in Flames was from Dan Versen Games, and that is not completely correct. Dan Versen was the designer for Down in Flames, and when Dan went to form his own company that makes a lot of cool games, Dan Versen Games, he kind of took the design with him, but GMT still owned Down in Flames. So Dan does have a air combat game series that he publishes on Dan Versen Games, which is similar to Wild Blue Yonder. So I apologize for misspeaking yesterday. That series was from GMT. That wasn't from Dan Versen Games. It was just Dan was, head lead designer, whatever, on it. Wild Blue Yonder is a World War II aerial combat game, and I'm not going to just pick this up and drop it because then the camera's going to jerk all over the place. But this is a really meaty box. And I do want to apologize that the way I've got the camera set up here, this is about as close to this as I can get. I can't really, or I should say this is about as far off as I can get for this box. So I'm going to be especially careful with keeping stuff in frame for this. But I am super pumped. I got a chance to play this in a tournament back at Consim World Expo. Had a blast. Had never played Down in Flames before. It was very, very easy to pick up the basic rules, the core rules, to be able to start playing. And I liked it so much that I started getting the different releases that had come out from GMT, and they were smaller boxes. They were about half the depth of this here. And of course it was out of print, and a lot of the GMT games, when they go out of print, the value goes through the roof in the secondary market. So I was picking up the different releases because I enjoyed it that much. But I haven't played it in quite some time because when I moved back to Chicago, I did sell those. So funny thing, you've heard me mention my good friend Louie out in Arizona. Louie scored a bunch of games from me before I moved back. Hey Louie, in case you're watching. Or little Louie, his son, in case he's watching. So he scored a fantastic bunch of games. Because I wasn't going to move everything back here. I mean, we're talking, it was a couple hundred games. So I am going to get this opened up, but first let's take a look at the back. And I should be all right. It doesn't look like I need any reading specs for this. From GMT, after being out of print for years, GMT Games series of fast-paced World War II air combat card games returns. In 1992, The Rise of the Luftwaffe was released, the first Down in Flames series volume. There we go. That game covered the early part of the war in Europe, both 1939 to early 1942. It was followed a few years later by the 8th Air Force, Volume 2. I had both of those, which added aircraft and campaigns for the latter part of the war. Far from being just a reprint of those two games, Wild Blue Yonder is an entirely new game, covering the war in the Eastern Theater of Operations from 1940 to 1944. The base mechanics of Down in Flames system remains virtually unchanged. Individual aircraft are represented on the table by cards, which players maneuver with respect to one another, both horizontally and vertically, by playing from their hands of action cards. So we can see there is a Spitfire, as well as the Messerschmitt 109G. And this game is, GMT scores it as a 4 for complexity. that sounds about right. On their scale of from 1 to 9, that's pretty close. I would maybe even drop it a little lower than that, maybe a 3. It's for ages 14 and up, and you can play with 2 or more players, because you're basically just controlling, each player is controlling an aircraft and a wingman. So you can have multiple players sitting at the table playing this. Okay, so I'm going to crack this on open here. It was funny, I almost thought that this was going to be all of the earlier releases put together. So Dawn of the Luftwaffe, 8th Air Force. Now I feel bad. I shouldn't have sold those. Okay, so I'm going to be gentle with this, because as you can see, I just barely dropped it. And it's shaking that camera around. That's how jam-packed this is with GMT goodness. And of course, with most GMT games, when you first open it up, a little tough to get the box top off. Hey, that wasn't so bad. There we go. So, we've got the Dogfight Rulebook for Wild Blue Yonder. And don't let the length of this rulebook scare you. Oh, actually, you certainly shouldn't let it scare you, because it was 2 books. All right, dummy. So we've got the dogfighting rules. And we've got an introduction and the components. It's going to talk about the aircraft cards. Oh, wow. This, the planes look... We're going to get a better look at the planes as I take them out of the box, but I don't recall some of these other cards. Like there's a cloud bank here. I don't recall photography being on some of the maneuver cards. I'm sure there's some serious GMT fans out there who will probably correct me if I'm wrong. I thought it was all kind of line art last time. Okay, so they're talking about altitude and hit markers, pilot counters, other counters, sequence of play, setup, duration, and victory. Talking about more detail about the aircraft cards. I apologize if I glance up. I'm all you know, a lot of times, especially with something like this, where the box size is kind of taking up the whole frame of the camera, I just want to make sure everything is in the shot that people can see. I don't want to be like, oh, and then the rules over here. Oh, then we got this. Oh, we got that too. Ah, yeah, that's excellent. Where you'll be sitting there. Hey, stupid. It's not in the frame. It's not framed. Okay, jet ratings. Oh, yes. Early jets. Special ratings. Playing action cards. Attacking, responding. Positioning. Indicating position, adjusting position. Engagement. Altitude. Firing. Now you figure we're, what, that's 13 pages? Trust me, it's not as complex as it looks. And I'm saying this not for the folks out there who are big war gamers and that. I'm saying this for the folks who have kind of hung around to check this out. If, for an example, if you're a fan of, say, like Wings of Glory, I almost said Wings of War, almost said it. If you're a fan of Wings of Glory, this game is no more complex than that. In fact, I would take a stab that it might, once you get the hang of it, might actually be a little bit easier. So if you're into kind of air combat games, because a lot of people dig the air combat, or even like Sails of Glory from APE Games. A lot of people dig that game. I like Age of Sail stuff. Pretty cool. But I was going to say that there are a lot of people who are into those kind of games that enjoy playing them, but they wouldn't sit down and be like, "Oh, hey, you got a Battle of the Bulge game, hey, floating around? We can bust out." What, you mean any one of the 1,000 Battle of the Bulge games that have been produced over the years? So yeah, air combat games are pretty cool, and one of the reasons why I really like this one is, although it's completely different. Here's an example of play too. Love how GMT always does good, solid examples of play. They usually have, as we unbox more stuff from GMT, they usually have like a playbook too, which is cool, which a lot of times gives you the different scenarios and stuff like that, but it gives you the designer notes, sometimes some strategy stuff, sometimes just a lot of historical background about the game. So as I was starting to say that one of the cool things I found about the Down in Flames series was, in a way, it sort of reminded me, and this is going way back, I mean, I'm showing my age now. Some people out there may have heard of or seen the Ace of Aces game books, where it was very popular at one point and then fizzled. But each player would have a book that represented their plane. It was World War I mainly. And it was like your point of view on the different pages. So, and then on the bottom of the page, and they were small sized books. They weren't huge books. They're about yay big. And then on the bottom of each page were different maneuver icons of what you were doing. So each of the players would choose their maneuvers, and then you would go and I'd say, okay, well, I'm doing this maneuver, so it's page whatever. And then they would say, okay, I'm doing page whatever. And when you went to that page and looked at the maneuver, it would tell you the page you both ended up on. So it'd show if you were, shooting at somebody, if they were right on your tail, things like that. And then there were like advanced rules for it too. And it's funny that really the Down in Flames series has nothing to do with that. But when I think about it, it's okay, we're all selecting maneuvers at the same time, and then we reveal our maneuvers. That's what sort of, I always think of Ace of Aces. I believe, if memory serves correctly, my good friend Elliot Miller, who I've mentioned a few times already on the show, and he's got a website, voiceofe.com. I think he still has some of his Ace of Aces books. I mean, I'm sure they're pretty beat up because we played a lot of that in high school. Okay, so we got campaign aircraft. So there's fighters, night fighters, light bombers. There's formation aircraft, because you can have scenarios where you're trying to take down bombers, bigger bombers and that. So that's pretty cool. Got special rankings, loaded aircraft. This is the campaign rule book. So this is where now, rather than just playing, one-off games, you can actually have pilots and crews right here on this page. I don't want to necessarily say leveling up, but you can have a persistent sort of world, kind of ongoing, attacking and defending bombers, attacking formation aircraft, striking mission targets, bombing modes, level bombing, dive bombing, saturation bombing, torpedo bombing, strafing, ground forces. For some reason, I don't recall ground forces being in the earlier games. Maybe it was in one of the volumes I wasn't able to get. Got flak, campaign missions, land campaigns. Wow, there's looks like GMT really went all out with this. Barbarossa special rules, Battle of Britain special rules, 8th Air Force 1943 special rules, operations, operation logs, progressive campaigns. There we go. That's what I meant. Yeah, you can have a campaign that progresses along, and you track the careers of the different pilots and that. Very cool. Great London Raid. Man, Kursk. Of course, I'm flipping through all of this stuff, and these are the campaign rules. You don't necessarily have to get into these just to play the game. Then, of course, we've got some extensive designer notes here. Go. Now, one thing I did notice is the box says game designer Chris Janiek, Janiec. We all know that I can't pronounce people's names to save my life. Is listed as the designer. So, I swear I am not incorrect when I was talking about Dan Verson earlier. Then again, I might be, but I do not believe that Chris was the original designer on this. But then again, you got to keep in mind, there really is no copyright on mechanics and stuff like that. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these counters. Let's get the counter sheets here. Looks like we've got some different pilots. They are dual-sided. Okay, now we've got some more counters here. Kind of holding them up so people can see them a little better. By doing so, it's sort of like, well, I can't really see them. So we got flak guns, ace, full throttle, silhouettes. If I remember right, these are the hits. These are the hit counters that you use. Because each plane is going to have a different amount of damage that it can sustain before it's shot down. Okay, so we've got these. These are the altitude counters here. Okay, so this certainly looks different. I don't recall these cards. So we've got, looks like various different missions almost. So air transport, mine laying, airdrop, radar station, dogfight reconnaissance, factory complex, industrial center. Probably putting these all on the side here so I can put it back in the box in a relatively orderly fashion. Port facilities, docks, supply center, supply depot, submarine pens, VWPN launch sites, V-weapon, duh. Rail yard, marshalling yard. Is marshalling spelled correctly there? Just looks wrong. Of course, I'm probably wrong. Airfield, ground forces, tank farm, oil refinery, bridge, sector airbase, city. It's a morale target. Small city, morale target. Aircraft carrier. Holy cow, man. Destroyer, freighter, tanker. Well, we got cruisers. Yep, cruiser, battleship, seaplane base, and small watercraft. Oh my gosh. Are these all scenarios? Let's take a look. Okay. So we've got North Africa, Rommel attacks into Egypt, 1942. This is all campaign stuff. It looks like these are all campaign cards here, but wow, this is so cool. Malta, 1940 to 41, 41 to 42. There we go. Here's Operation Barbarossa. And Stalingrad airlift. There's, look at that, campaign track. Kursk. Schweinfurt raids. So it shows you, just kind of give you an idea. Kind of gives you a little bit of historical text on what's going on. It has rules summary, so it's no doubt telling you what special campaign rules are going to come into play. Because as we flipped through, we saw there were Battle of Britain rules, stuff like that. Also talks about the fighters present. So it's going to tell you which Allied and Axis aircraft would be available for this campaign. Over target homebound segment campaign performance. So you're looking at scoring victory points in an entire campaign. I don't remember this much detail. I mean, there were like campaign rules in that, but not like this. I mean, this is just... You know, I talk about my nephew Cameron, who is 16. Duh. I'm lucky I know how old I am. And he's in that phase right now where he's really into like war movies and stuff like that. And going off on a short tangent here, I find it interesting that people who people aren't familiar with wargaming or war gamers, how they just assume that we're warmongers or something like that, or we're all extremely right-wing, so on and so forth. That's not necessarily the case. Usually, now I have not served in the military, but a lot of times people are into war games and that have served in the military. And people who play war games tend to also be very up on history. So many of us know a lot of the grisly details that have taken place in conflicts throughout history. And we certainly are not sitting there going like, oh yeah, let's have more of that. So it's just, most war gamers just like to kind of try to model the strategy and tactics and see if you can come up with an ahistorical result to a battle or a war or things like that. Not sitting there going, oh yeah, let's go to war with North Korea, baby, yeah. No. So anyway, as I mentioned, my nephew Cameron's getting all into like a bunch of war stuff and that. And I would definitely say that, oh, there's the Battle of Britain, as I went flipping past it. Another Battle of Britain. But this is certainly something I guarantee he is going to want to check out. I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to check this out. Okay, so we got Buzz Bomb. Battle of Britain mission procedure. There's a lot of Battle of Britain stuff I see so far. Whoops. Strike chart. Oh. It's only one-sided. A Blue Yonder resources card. So kind of a player aid card. Wow. Man, a lot of stuff. No, you know what? This isn't really a player aid card. I think this is just more trying to put some of the campaign information all in one place for you. Got a bunch of campaign logs. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to just go through these real quick because they're going to be kind of similar. But, so look, so we got Battle of Britain. So it's showing that aircraft, day aircraft, night aircraft, different conditions, targets. So that's the Allied log. This is the Axis log. So, of course, you're going to make photocopies. You're going to go take this over to your scanner, because you are not going to want to be sitting there marking up these. And they're cardstock. It's not just paper on these. So, got Battle of Britain, Battle of Britain, Battle of Britain. I guess they do expect you to mark these up because they look like there's a bunch of duplicates of them. I wouldn't. Operation Pedestal campaign log. Ally and Axis. More of these. They are all the same. Land campaign log. This looks like this might just be kind of a generic one. Yep. Got quite a few of these. Man, it's just the goodies just keep coming. Well, I told you this is a heavy box. I wasn't kidding. It's not like I'm some sort of a weakling. And I didn't mean to insinuate I had a difficult time picking it up. So we've got the Stalingrad Aircraft Campaign Log, Kursk Campaign Log, and a few of these copies here. More Battle of Britain. Is that what it's going to finish up as? Yeah. All right, so a bunch of these campaign logs. I mean, just a lot. Now we get to move into the highlight of Wild Blue Yonder with the cards. So we've got all these aircraft cards. And you'll get a few copies of each model. So I am not necessarily going to take all these apart to take a look at them, simply because you're already, well, yeah, we'll try to look at, we'll look at a couple of decks. Then we've got the Axis action deck and the Allied action deck. And what I want to point out is this isn't one deck of cards. This is enough cards for a few different players, because these are going to be the maneuver cards, action cards, whatever you want to consider them. All right, so what should we do? Nah, we're not looking at the Ruskies. Looks like we got some British planes there. Okay, so as I mentioned before, this is a good example. These cards are wrapped pretty tight, and that's why I use a hobby knife to get these open. Because as I mentioned yesterday, if you're sitting there and you're trying to use like a fingernail or trying to use, say, like a steak knife, you are going to nick cards. There's almost no getting around it. So, and there's, really not a lot that many manufacturers can do as far as wrapping their cards. Yeah, some companies will put that little strip that you just kind of unzip it. But more times than not, those don't even work. I've noticed they kind of tear off. You grab a quick wet of the whistle here. Okay, so let's try to get a bit close in here. Yeah, that should be good. So as I mentioned, there are all these planes. There were all these planes that came out in these different volumes, and they're not all fighters. So here we've got a medium bomber, and they will have planes from smaller nations too included in this. In fact, that's what this looks like. This might be. Okay, so, and they're dual-sided. And if I remember correctly, as I mentioned, it's been a while since I played, but as you take damage, you flip the card. So if I remember correctly, like I said, it's been quite a long time since I played this. If I remember correctly, once you would take this amount of damage, you would actually flip the card over, and then you now have some reduced ratings. And then once you took that much damage, you've been shot down. I might be incorrect, but for some reason I seem to recall that. So let's just take a look through. Junker 88s, Junker 88As, I should say. Or I should say Junkers. And it looks as if, what we had, 4 copies of that. A Henkel. 2 of those. 2 of those. Oh yeah, see, okay, so on that side, and then we flip onto this side. I should have noticed that there's a trail of smoke. So that's the big indicator that it's damaged. And I should mention these cards are, cards are pretty good stock. And see how if I kind of flip it a little bit, there's some glare. There's a nice finish to these. I would still make sure to sleeve them. You may not necessarily have to sleeve all of the fighters in that, just, you know, the ones that you're using and stuff like that. It's not that difficult to pull a card out of a sleeve and slide another card in. But as far as these action cards, I certainly would. I would definitely sleeve them. Okay, so let's kind of just take a little peek. If I remember correctly, as I can't get this card out of the box. There we go. If I remember correctly, the other editions, the early editions of like Birth of the Luftwaffe, for some reason I want to say these cards may have been on a sheet that you had to separate. Huh. I don't know. For some reason that's popping in my head. All right, so we're just kind of looking through. I mean, just look at all of these different aircraft that are included in this game. It's insane. So we've got the US, we had some of the German, now we've got Soviet. Now we've got some British bombers there. Got these that we were kind of taking a look at before. Let's pop open something that looks like. So it looked like there was a lot of bombers in that. Let's see. Oh, that was kind of easy. Good deal. So as we were going through the different books, the different logs, all that stuff, I really want to get the point across to people who aren't really into conflict simulation games, that if they get scared off, people out there who are like, oh, I don't want to play Twilight Struggle because that's a war game. And it's like, no, it's not a war game. It sort of looks like a war game, but it's not. Once again, I just want to point out, the game is not difficult to get into. The core rules there were about, what, 15 pages? So, all right, look at this. Man, just loaded. Yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about, with a bunch of, like, smaller nations are represented with their planes. Man, this is very, very cool. Very, very cool. Okay. So keep in mind, like I said, I'm not going to go through all of these decks there. I will open up one of the action decks, though. Keep in mind, there are 4 aircraft decks. Look at that. Jam-packed. Okay, let's open up the Allied. Okay, what do we got? Yep, they're not actually broken up into individual decks. They're broken up into maneuvers. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so it looks like there are going to be 4 individual decks for the Allies. which effectively means that you could be playing 8 players. Really. Or 8 aircraft. Figure you got 4 decks for the Allies, you got 4 decks for the Axis. So, just kind of give you an idea of some of these. So, you've got a half loop. And then right down here it tells you exactly what does that card do. When you play that card, what does that card do? And of course, as in flying a real aircraft, there are some limitations to what you can do. And some of those are shown on the card for the aircraft itself. Some might be on the card itself. So you got the half loop, maneuver, it's an attack. Maneuvers, in my sights. In my sights again. There's different in my sights cards, if I remember right, too. Some are better than others. And it's like there's no... If you notice here, you've got like bombing. So I guess you're gonna like draw cards for some of the bombing. But here, so for an example, attack, it does 1 hit, attack, 2 hits, 2 hits, in my sights. There's the 3. But yeah, there was not, this is completely different artwork for these cards. Very cool. Out of the Sun, excellent card to play. Ace Pilot, Tight Turn, Chop Throttle. So what you'll do is, oh, here we go, here's the clouds. Oh, so the clouds are part of your action deck. Okay. Scissors, vertical roll. Man, this is just... I'm gonna have to see if my nephew's got anything cooking this weekend, because I've got some games I really want to get to the table, and this is one. And I honestly think probably my brother would like this too, and Elliot. I'm sure Elliot would dig it. All right, so that's just kind of an example of some of the maneuvers here. All right, so effectively, this is an unboxing video. This isn't where we're gonna go through all the rules and everything else. So very, very cool. I'm very excited to see this because like I said before, I really, really dug the Down in Flame series. So we've got the 4 decks of aircraft cards. We've got the altogether it looks like there's 8 decks of action cards, 4 for the Allies and 4 for the Axis. We've got all of these campaign logs. Pop those on in there. We've got this reference card. We've got a bunch of different campaigns with the different missions with that. We have all of these different, what appears to be mission targets. Got 4 sheets of these with 8 on a sheet. We've got the counters. Got a sheet and a half of counters. Got the campaign game. I should say campaign rulebook. Campaign game. Duh. And the Dogfight Rulebook. And that, my friends, ladies and gentlemen, is what we find when we take everything from Wild Blue Yonder outside the box. So very, very cool. I am pumped to get that to the gaming table. So, well, hey, not too bad. Kind of close to 90 minutes. I am at an hour and 25 minutes. So that's kind of my game plan as far as with the Daily Dope, is to kind of keep this to, about between an hour and 90 minutes. I'm trying to do closer to 90 minutes. I should point out a few different things. So this is brand new. Format's still being ironed out. But I am who I am. I'm not going to change. I mean, that's just, nothing's going to change as far as that goes. So I'm going to be chatty. I'm going to be conversational. I'll throw a few wisecracks out every once in a while. But, you know, my personality is what it is. So either kind of like it or you don't. That's okay. I've been around for 50 years. I can take it. But what I was going to say is, if you want to become a patron, I should say, on Patreon, certainly welcome it. You can find that at patreon.com/thegaminggang. And you can support the Gaming Gang and the Daily Dope by way of it for as little as $1 a month. You can make a one-time tip, I guess we could say, through paypal.me/thegaminggang, or thegaminggang, no .com on that. But more importantly, what I like people to do is just kind of spread the word, kind of, you know, retweet or share the live feed, or even when this goes in an archive on Twitter or on YouTube, just kind of share it around with people, help kind of spread the word a little bit. I'm committed to doing this Monday through Friday, right as rain, except if there's a major holiday here in the US. Then I think I'm going to take a bit of a break. I'm going to take an extended weekend probably on those days. But by all means, if you kind of got a kick out of the video, if you kind of like the Daily Dope on YouTube, make sure to, you know, give it a thumb. On Twitch, give me a follow. If for some reason you decide to give me a thumbs down on YouTube, hey, that's okay. I know I'm not everybody's bag of tricks, but do me a favor and at least say why you didn't like it. I mean, I can understand, Jeff, your personality stinks, or hey, you know, it's cheesy, it should be more professional. Whatever, that's fine. Whatever reason you don't like it, that's cool. Just give me a heads up. I have a few friends in the gaming industry who do reviews and unboxing videos and stuff like that. And then they'll get people, you know, thumbs down. I've seen the video, I'm thinking, what's wrong with it? I don't get it. And of course they sit there scratching their heads too. You know, why did they not like it? Is it, I don't like the game? Well, okay, you don't like the game, but why are you giving that person a thumbs down? So if you do say, nah, didn't like it, just throw a quick comment out and say, well, this is why I didn't like it. Anyway, so that is the Daily Dope for Wednesday, December 6th. As always, I am Jeff McAleer, and if you aren't watching the Daily Dope, be sure to go over to thegaminggang.com. That's right. We cover comics, movies, TV, board games, role-playing games, all sorts of tabletop gaming, pretty much just about anything that appeals to the geek in all of us. So as I like to say, be sure to get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And until tomorrow and my 2 role-playing game reviews, have a great day, and thank you so much for watching.